Beyonce. Behind the glitz and glamour of the music industry lies a sinister and hidden truth. A system designed to exploit.
The devil give you all this money, go through all this shit to destroy yourself.
Control.
It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright.
And keep artists in a perpetual state of debt.
This is very important because
it's crazy how streaming platforms came about after Michael Jackson was, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you can look it up. The date of his death and the date of the birth of streaming both took place at the same time.
Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of completely. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice.
I need to innovate what these contracts are, not just for me, but for all artists. It's not about me getting my masters back. It's about freedom.
In this video, I want to cover what that truth actually looks like.
Yo, that's how you look like, Jackson?
In this video,
I would have never thought, like, your voice don't match. You look fly as fuck, bro.
I want to cover what that truth actually looks like. For every artist who dreams of fame and fortune, there are countless of others who find themselves imprisoned in a maze of legal jargon and financial pitfalls. Pitfalls that 95% of artists aren't even aware of until they find themselves in a position where they eventually are trapped. The standard recording contract in the music industry promises fame, fortune, and artistic success, but is sadly too often structured in ways that benefits the label more than the artists themselves. Without a thorough understanding of the contract's terms and potential pitfalls, a lot of artists unfortunately find themselves trapped in a cycle of debt, loss of control, and...
But just think about what the music business is. They give you upfront money so they could recoup on the money they just gave you. You're always going to be in debt, because you never know how long it's going to take to recoup. And imagine if you're a good artist. You think you're going to recoup fast? I'm going to say that again because it went over your head. Imagine if you're a good artist. Or you think they're going to just say, hey, look, you paid everything back, so you're free to go.
And financial instability. These contracts, which we will go over, are meticulously designed to look like opportunities, offering advances that seem like a blessing to artists hungry for their big break. But what's hidden between the lines is a complex web of clauses that ensures the label recoups every cent, often at the expense of the artist. Before we continue, let's take a look at our real-life example, okay? Which is a rapper I'm sure you recognize, Meek Mill. Now, Meek Mill almost 2 years ago went on his public rant against his record label, Atlantic Records. Now the question is, why did he go on this rant? Well, let's just say that he was getting screwed by his own record label because he signed a contract not knowing what he was signing off on. I made $11 million in 10 years from my music, just music payments, Meek said. I was shocked, mad, and didn't want to really rap for any label. Now I got...
Yeah, I just thought of some shit. Music and renting is just the same thing. Y'all niggas gotta pay up front. For them niggas to make more back-end money.
A real point to prove, he said. In another tweet, Meek Mill stated that one of his biggest records, a song featuring Drake, titled Going Bad, had made his record label over $24 million. Meek Mill had no clue how much of that money he himself made, if any. One day I asked how much Going Bad made, just that song. And this is him asking his record label, right? And the record label responded saying, the song made $24 million. Meek continued by asking his record label, how much did I make? All I got was I'm like, what the hell? I know all the financials to my other businesses. I signed out all trust for that whole system. Meek Mill ended that with. This is a rapper most people consider a very big name, and to his defense, Meek Mill is an extremely successful rapper. But, like the majority of artists in the music industry, the lion's share of the revenue from his own work was going into the pockets of the major labels. The language in these contracts that artists sign are very dense. The terms are also convoluted.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I watch my joints in 2 times, 1.5 times, so we're gonna see how it go.
And by the time an artist realizes the true cost of what they signed, it's often too late. They're locked into deals where their music, their brand, and even their identity is no longer their own. And instead of living this music dream they once had as a child, they're working to pay off debts they didn't fully understand.
I only do that because sometimes, and no shade, but sometimes people be talking too slow for regular, bro. I'm starting to realize that with YouTube. If you gotta watch something, bitch too slow, speed that bitch up. Don't stop watching.
Creating their music not from a place of inspiration, but obligation. So this thing they once loved becomes a means to fulfilling a quota. It's a system that's been perfected over decades with the sole purpose of keeping the power firmly in the hands of the record labels while artists struggle to find a way out.
Firmly in the hands of record labels.
And this is the truth. Most artists actually struggle. It may seem glamorous looking from the outside, but one audit of their financials would reveal a whole host of things you would never believe. This is something that's far too common, specifically in the hip-hop culture. A flashy lifestyle is synonymous with the genre, and when rappers flaunt this luxurious lifestyle, dripping in designer clothes, driving exotic cars, and flashing stacks of cash, it's easy to believe they've made it big. But as a lot of us know, beneath the surface, this lavish lifestyle is nothing but an illusion. And this lifestyle is actually fueled by advances from record labels that have to be paid back. These advances, which most artists look at as easy money, are actually loans that many artists struggle to recoup due to low royalty rates, hidden fees, and mounting expenses. As a result, a lot of artists, probably a lot of your favorite ones actually, are secretly in debt, locked into contracts that keep them financially strained while they keep projecting an image of success. The wealth they display is often borrowed, believe it or not.
Yo, you know what's crazy? They do good marketing because I don't believe it. That's the part of the music industry that's corrupt because I would still support my artist if he was broke. He just make good music.
Not earned and actually far from the true financial freedom they portray in their music, while an entire generation of artists continue to trap themselves in a cycle of debt and control, and the industry continues to evolve, and the tactics they employ in order to keep as many artists as they possibly can under that system, which becomes even more advanced by the second. A standard recording deal typically offers an artist what they call an advance, which is essentially a loan that must be repaid through future earnings. So in other words, this advance represents what they view as a potential return on their investment, because they're not giving anybody a big-ass loan out of the kindness of their heart. It's business. They're banking on the fact that they will make this back somehow, some way. Artists generally receive a royalty rate between 10 to 15% on album sales or streams, meaning they only earn between $1 to $1.50 out of every $10 of revenue they generate. Now the label keeps the rest to recover costs and profits. However, and this is the kicker, these royalties are paid only after the advance is fully recouped, and numerous hidden fees like marketing and production costs are deducted from the artist's share, which honestly, it makes it very, very, very difficult for an artist to see significant earnings from their music. I mean, think about it. You receive this big ass check, okay? It's called an advance, but it's really a loan, and the intended purpose for this money is for this money to be spent and allocated towards your career. Even if you make a bunch of money on that first album, and this is something a lot of artists don't think about, unless the money you made exceeds the amount of money they gave you, you're still going to be in debt to the record label, because that advance they gave you still needs to be recouped. And so the question is, what happens in a scenario like this? Well, let me tell you what happens. The artist ends up renegotiating their contract, okay, because they now have the leverage to do so. If the percentage in your original contract states that you'll be receiving 13% of revenue your record makes, well, now when you're renegotiating, because they see that you're a success, right, you have proof of concept, they might bump you up to 15% or 18, which is on the high end, and that's not so common. 15 is the most common number. What's psychologically going on here is the artist now feels lucky. They think, I was able to negotiate 2 more points, which is another word for percentages. You know, that's the terminology they use in the music industry. So points equals percentage. Not only was I able to bump up the percentage I'm gonna make, but now they're offering me another advance. It must be my lucky day. Well, slow down, Padawan. It ain't your lucky day at all. The labels will always be willing to renegotiate with you if they see that you're selling. They will also always be willing to give you another advance. Now the question is, why are they willing to give you another big ass check? Well, let's do the math. If you sign for, let's say, 3 years and 3 albums, and they give you $300,000 as an advance, and by the time you get to your second album, you've managed to pay off $250,000 of that advance, which isn't likely for most artists, by the way, because the royalty fee they're giving you is it's just so small. But that's another conversation. By the time you get to your second album, there's still $50,000 for them to recoup. And this is when we get to the renegotiation. They bumped you up to, 15 points, and now they offer you $500,000 as an advance. You take the money, and now you're $550,000 in debt, all before you made a...
That's some shit right there. Ain't gonna lie. That sound like a dream, but waking up with $500K in debt, boy.
single cent off of your own music. This is what we call keeping you in a perpetual state of debt and deficit. As soon as you receive that payment, they just put you in a deeper hole, and you fell for it. Now, there's one really good thing about this and one bad thing. Let's start with the good so I can break you down later. The good thing is that you don't actually have to give this money back to the label. That's not how this works, because a record label will only offer this amount if they see potential earnings in your future. And most times the amount they give you is slightly higher than what they expect you to make. So they're the ones taking all the risk. That's the appeal of an advance. You're spending a bunch of money on your music career that is not yours to begin with. You're not the one putting up the dollars. And that's why this business model is so effective. You get a bunch of money money with practically no risk on your end. This is however when we get to the other side of it. Although you don't have to technically
Wait, word? I ain't trying to say nothing, but you saying all I really gotta do is put up a decent amount behind the artist and I own 'em? I mean, not own them, but word.
pay that money back, one thing that's generally present in these standard recording contracts the majority of artists sign is this word right here. In perpetuity. What this essentially means is that there's no end date. This is forever. Once the artist signs,
It's like pimping, but only niggas. You get it? Because, the niggas is the one making the deals and shit, doing the such shit. Damn.
that contract, they now own all the pieces of music you released under them in perpetuity, i.e. forever. This is why ownership in music is the #1 way to wealth. Wealth that the big corporations who own the music pass on to their grandkids. While the musician who's slaving away in the studio is stuck in a cycle of debt, that's why they'll never be able to escape the cycle. They're not meant to escape it. And that's why I personally think signing to a label in this generation is completely obsolete. You don't need it. 9 times out of 10, the only reason why an artist would want to sign is because of fame. A record label is essentially the engine that propels an artist to fame. They'll put you on all the big billboards and the late night shows. They'll help you plaster your face in different parts of the industry that you yourself as a one-man show can't reach. And there's nothing wrong with wanting this, since everyone wants different things out of their career. If fame is what you aspire to get with your artistry, then signing to a record deal is definitely the right move for you, 100%. However, if you value your freedom as an artist more than the recognition, well, make sure you stay independent in that case. Being an independent artist is more than just a fancy word. It means that you're ready to do whatever it takes to keep being free. There's a price to everything in life. You're either going to have to pay by submitting to the shackles of the music industry, or you're going to have to pay with the discipline and self-reliance needed in order for you to keep the train going. Most human beings in general don't have this kind of drive, which is why the independent artist is becoming so rare. Not everybody is ready to put in the work necessary. The ones who are and stick it out have the potential to really reap the rewards while still maintaining sovereignty. And the ones who don't give up their freedom in exchange for control over their own work.
Nah, this was a good video because I feel like it did touch on topics like the music industry being corrupt, shit that goes on behind closed doors, and some of our favorite artists not being what we actually think they are. There's always been a music game though, you feel me? That's why people like Prince and Michael will forever be the pioneers to how it's supposed to be done. Them boys really laid a foundation for how people should be independent. If it wasn't for them, and a lot of other artists who was trying to pave that way, we probably wouldn't have a lot of things that we do today. So kudos to you, Yasin, for making this. Kudos to the people who paved the way. And I hope y'all like this video.